Salutations, Imperial citizens and battle brothers. It is I, Brother Tobias, and today I will write a list for the new 11th edition of Warhammer 40k. I plan on taking this list, or at least a list that is going to evolve through testing based on this list, to a little RTT that is going to happen in, I believe, about a month, maybe less than that. I think it's like 2.5 weeks from now. So let's take a look at what we're gonna do. I will go through the entire process of how I personally build a list in this new edition and how I would do that. So the way I'm gonna do it is I will take a new recruit, the army builder, now tuned for 11th edition, and I will use that to build my list. Now you can use the Warhammer 40k app on your phone, and then you will have all the pictures of the little units beside it, and that's all fun. The reason why I'm not gonna do that is because I can't stream from my phone, so I have no way to record me on unless I put down like a webcam and I just physically film myself using the app. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to create a list, and we have to choose our faction and our detachment. So I will be playing Imperium Astartes, and of course we are playing Ultramarines. And I will name this list something like tournament list for the date it's gonna be, or something like that, or we're just gonna name it what it's actually gonna be in terms of detachments. We're going to build a reclamation force plus Fulguris task force, and that's how we're gonna do. So this is our baseline, and now we just put all the settings. Here's the little disclaimer. I always disable all of the like agents and stuff. It's just gonna be what it is. And we are going to set the game at 2,000 points. We are going to set the detachment. We have 3 detachment points to spend, and we will spend 2 of those detachment points on the Reclamation Force and on the Fulguris task force. So now we have 2 detachments. So the first thing we are going to take a look at, and we will have open at all times while writing this little list, is the primaries, of course. We will take a look at the primaries here, and we will use a site called GDM 2026. And here we can take a look at all of the primaries. So in order to speed this up a little bit, let's take a look back to the recruit. Because we are running a 2 detachment setup here, we have a choice in this position. We can run disruption or take and hold. Take and hold comes from the Reclamation Force. Disruption comes from the Fulguris Task Force, which is the land speed detachment. I'll go over the detachments in just a second, just briefly to talk what it's all about. But effectively, we are going to build a take and hold list with this list, because the rules of the Reclamation Force, which we have right here, are mostly made and centered around holding objectives. So we have the Reclamation Force here, and our detachment rule, Oath of Reclamation, says if we are on an objective and make a melee attack, our AP is improved by 1, and if we are being targeted by an opponent with more strength than we have toughness, while we control the objective we're on, it's -1 to wound. So both of our rules and a bunch of our enhancements and other stuff require us to be on objectives. The disruption primary in general doesn't reward you for being on objectives. It sometimes wants you to take objectives away, but most of the time you're just doing like counter actions, or you outflank your opponent. You're not really brawling in the center, so to speak. And that's why in order to make use of the Reclamation Force rules, we are going to take the Reclamation Force disposition, which is taken hold, and we will build off of that. So, what is our second detachment? It is the Fulguris Task Force, and it buffs all of the land speeder type units. So all of the storm speeders and land speeders get a keyword for this detachment, and we can make an ingress move on turn 1, which means we can deep strike on turn 1. We cannot rapid ingress because it says our first movement phase, but it also means we can up down on turn 1. So, and basically your speeders get a reactive move outside of aid. You get up down for a speeder, and you can use one speeder to give your other speeder +6 detection range, and that's just what it is. So basically, this detachment buffs speeders, so we obviously want to use some speeders. But first, we will take a look at take and hold, and we can see our 5 different primaries, and we should also take a look at our opponent's primaries. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but basically, if we play take and hold versus take and hold, we need to, we can just cycle through them here. So we will have to hold more objectives than our opponent. We get extra points for each objective we control and do all of that, and we have to batten down our home objective. So in the take and hold mirror, it is pretty important to keep your whole objective taken down. Here we go. We have the disruption game, which is our opponent has to put down the traps on our thing. I wish you could open that on like a second tab. So let's just do it right there. Let's just go disruption and then the take and hold thing. Yeah, the death trap. So our opponent has to do an action and then trap the objectives, and then our opponent gets points if they kill our units while they are on the objectives, which is something they can do, and it's pretty decent because we want to be on the objectives at all times. But if we just prevent our opponent from doing the action, because they do have to, it has to be on a terrain. And then it gets trapped. So we just have to make sure they don't get on the terrain features we want to hold and do that kind of stuff. Also, just stay away from terrain features that are not objectives. Excuse me, it has to be an objective. Yeah, so the outside of the deployment zone, you can also try to to hold the objectives in your opponent's deployment zone, like their home objective, for example. Or it doesn't say wholly within, so if one of the deployment zones is like kind of in their deployment zone, one of the objectives, you can hold that one and they can't trap it, which I don't think is possible. I need to look at the maps again, but that's what that is. So, and what we have to do, we just have to hold an objective that we did not control at the start of turn. It triggers end of turn, so we just have to take objectives away, and we also get points for each objective we control. So that is the easy one. Next, we go versus Purge the Foe, and we open Purge the Foe against Take and Hold. So in this one, our opponent has to kill 1 unit per turn. Our opponent gets points if they control an objective. So basically they are also playing take and hold, so they have to control objectives, and they also have to take objectives away from us. So this is a pretty straightforward one where they have to do some stuff, and we basically should make sure they do not control the center objective at the end of the game, which is a good thing to notice. So how about we take some notes here. Let's open up a notepad if we can do that. Let's just display capture, window capture. Here we have the notepad. There we go. Just a little notepad here. Just scroll that down, and we are going to write down a little thing. Number 1, hold objectives. Number 2, here we go. Number 2, against Purge. Don't let them finish in the center. All right, good thing to know. And there's also something to consider. Maybe we don't need to run like a bunch of units, like a bunch of like MSU. So maybe don't go like crazy, like 15, 16 units deep. Instead, focus on some durable units. The Purge the Foe list might have some trouble dealing with. Next, we have the Inescapable Dominion versus Priority Assets. This one is, here we go, versus Secure Assets. So our opponent has to do an action at the center objective. In order to do that action, they do have to control it, I'm pretty sure. Let's take a look again. They do have to control it, I believe. An objective. Yeah, if your unit controls it. So they do have to control the center and then do an action in the center. They also have to control objectives. They don't get they do get some kill points too. So basically, the secure assets player wants to throw everything they have into the center to make sure they get some points that way. That is a thing. Excuse me, what was that? So that is one thing. So and our objective here is we just have to control 3 or more, and we also get points if we just control 2 or more in the command phase, and if we have more than the opponent. So we simultaneously want to make sure we can do some stuff there, and we also get some bonus point if we control the opponent's home objective at the end of the game. So that is a thing we can take a look at. So let's take the thing. So against priority, don't let them hit the center, and also for also we did have a thing. We had a thing against against taken hold. Yeah, against the mirror. We don't want them to be on our home objective, correct? Because that gives them points. Nope. Which one was that? No, I'm crazy. I made that up in my head. Okay, never mind. So yeah, 4. Hit the enemy home objective. Hit the enemy home objective, which is which requires some skirmishing. And last but not least, we have the game against the Recon. So now we go to the Recon, which we have right there, reconnaissance against thing. So what the Recon player has to do, they have to split up and be in all the corners of the board, and they have to kill us on the objective terrain features, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, they have to kill us basically, and they have to be in all of the quarters at the board. So this would be a way to say, don't against recon, don't let them be in our DZ basically. And what we have to do in this game, purge and secure, we have to kill things on objectives, and we have to be on objectives and kill things, and we also get points for objectives. So the way I explained this in my review is the taken hold player basically has to play on the objectives, and the recon player has to be away from the objectives, and then it's like everyone just does their own thing, kind of. So we have to make sure that while we are holding the objectives, we also take care that we do not let the recon player just score random table quarters and stuff. So if we can purge them from, preferably while we are inside the objectives with some guns, sounds like a good plan. So the thing I noticed here, none of these say no, we do have to. Oh, this is so annoying. I wish I could just look at the ones we have to play against. So this is the one. So this one doesn't have them take our home objective. The purge one has them take the center, I believe. Yep, this one is for the center. The take and hold mirror is no bonus at all for the home objective. The recon we just looked at, priority doesn't have anything to do with our home objective, and disruption actually also doesn't. So our home objective, surprisingly enough, isn't that important. So we don't have to defend our home objective with like crazy stuff here. So 6 would be home objective, not that important. So we can probably get away with just putting sticky on our home objective and then doing other stuff. So I will keep these notes close here, and I will refer back to them whenever we need to. So let's take a look at what we actually want to do with our list. So now that we have a general plan, just hold objectives and stuff, and we usually always want to hold like the one objective in our expansion area. Ideally, we also want to hold the home objective because it's sticky, but it doesn't actually count for this stuff here. It only counts for the different types of hold more. So the home objective not that impressive or important. We just have to focus on all the other objectives, and I will take a look back at these if it is necessary. So let's take a look at the new recruits. So let's get started with the baseline. If you build an Ultramarines list, you want to take a look at either Marneus Calgar or WH40k. Now, Reclamation Force is not a shooting detachment. We don't have a single rule in this detachment that improves the damage output of guns, which in my opinion means WH40k most likely not the most important character to take. We also don't have a way to advance and charge in this detachment, and we could use the extra command points. So we are going to start off with Marneus Calgar in the armor of Antilochus, and we will make him the warlord so we get the extra command points. That sounds pretty good to me. Next, we want to play Captain Titus, because whatever unit Captain Titus joins has the -1 to wound effect all the time, no matter if your opponent has more strength, no matter if Titus is not on an objective they control, the Titus unit will always have the -1 to wound, and that is a good thing, because that means you have this one very reliable brick to take care of. Next, we can also consider what these two are going to be leading. And for Captain Titus, I always want to include the Wardens of Ultramar, because that means we can have a big unit attached to both of them. So we attach Titus to the Wardens, and then we attach Wardens and Titus to something else. And we will end up with a unit that has a lot of OC and will do a good job here. So what we're going to do is we start with the Titus unit. And I want to go with some Blade Guard veterans. Blade Guard veterans, they finally got cheaper on the 6-man unit. So we will take the Neo Volkite Plasma Pistol and we will take 6 Blade Guard. And this will give us a unit of 13 models, which does in fact allow our opponent to score the one card that says they have to kill a unit 13 plus thing. We can consider dropping down to 3 Blade Guard to save some points and have an extra unit in the list, but this will be a very tough unit to deal with, especially because we have reroll ones on our invulnerable saves in melee, which, as well with our Captain Titus having his fight on death and stuff, will mean this is a good time now. We have a very good unit for melee, and it will run us a total of 270 plus 90, so it's 360 points for 13 models with -1 to wound, a 4-up invuln, so the lack of Armor of Contempt isn't as important, and that's what that is. So, good stuff here. Marneus Calgar is pretty interesting because he wants to be in Victrix Guard, in my opinion. You could make a case to go with like some Terminators, but I would actually like to have a unit that has a few tricks the detachment otherwise doesn't bring here. So we will just gonna start by adding all of the things we could, and if we are points over budget, we will keep trimming stuff. So let's run a big unit of 6 Victrix Guard with the banner and with the champion, and let's add Captain Sicarius too, because this way we have a reactive move, 3 heroic intervention, and blood surge. So we have all of the movement tricks as well as advance and charge and some good melee we otherwise don't get now. Victrix Guards also have 2 OC, which makes them preferable to Terminators in my opinion, or Aggressors or something, because in this detachment, controlling the objective is very important, because not only is holding the objectives good for our primary scoring, holding the objectives also means we get the -1 to wound buff. Now, Victrix Guard already have the -1 to wound as long as they have a leader, but it also means it stacks. So if your opponent has a +1 to wound ability, like Lance, which is pretty common, they will not get that buff because you will have the -1 to wound twice. So this means if you get charged by like Venetari Custodians and they have lances, so instead of wounding you on 3s, they will still be wounding you on 4s, and that's just what that is. And with those 2 units, the Calgar Victrix Sicarius unit, obviously very expensive. We have 2 huge bricks of models with a lot of OC. Next, I want to bring another brick, and this one will involve an Apothecary Biologis, and we will give him the Seal of Reconquest enhancement. That makes him 90 points, which is a lot of points, but it allows us to have a 5-up invulnerable save while the unit is attached. So basically, we attach the leader to a unit, and that unit will have the -1. Excuse me, here you can see it. The Seals of Reconquest. We have a 5-up invulnerable save while attached to a unit. So keep in mind what I said. Hold objectives, pretty important on the little note here. Number 1, hold objectives, and that means we want to be on objectives with a tough unit that preferably has some high OC. And this is why I will be adding a unit of 10 heavy intercessors. We're going for the maximum size here, as many as we can, so we have to add some here at the second heavy bolter. Take one out again, don't know why that is, just new recruit stuff. So yeah, we have 10 heavy intercessors, and they will be joining this apothecary. 290 points, not crazy stuff, but it is very tough. You have a unit of 30 wounds with 23 OC, because the apothecary is free, and you get lethal hits in shooting. Your guns are a lot better than they used to be, because now they are heavy and assault, and heavy means you can walk 3 inches and still get your +1 to hit, which means they functionally ignore cover, and all of their AP1 shooting is now actually reliable. In return, you have one source of defensive buffs, which is the -1 to wound from the detachment, and you also have a +1 save if your opponent shoots you with damage 1 stuff. And most blast weapons are like damage 1. Of course, there are exceptions to this that are like really good at slaying our models, like Plasma Cannon Forge Fiends or the Phylos. But if there's something like mortar batteries or something like that, like frag missiles, like the kind of blast weapons you shoot into like trash, they will not do a single point of damage to our intercessors. And now they also have a 5-up invulnerable saves, which gives us a bit of leeway into, let's say, Forge Fiends or the Phylos here. But yeah, that is something we can do. Also, lethal hits in the output, pretty good. So now we have 3 huge bricks of models, and we are over the half of our list is now gone. Now I want to make sure we also take our second detachment. So let's take a look back on this. We are going to look at the Fulguris task force, which says we want to play some speeders. And for this, I will just plug and play a big old speeder package. So we are going to take the Storm Speeder Hammerstrike, and we'll just take 2 of these, and we will take the land speeders here. So what do the speeders actually do for us in our little detachment? So here we go, 2 land speeders with Gatling Cannon and Multi-Melter, and 2 Storm Speeder Hammerstrikes. There we go. This is a 440 point package, I'm pretty sure if I mathed that correctly. And you will get a big boost to your shooting, because again, the Reclamation Force doesn't buff shooting. You don't have assault on anything, so preferably all of our shooting units are very mobile. Speeders have a 14-inch move across the board, and we can just subtract 2 inches to fly over buildings. So the speeders will be our main fire support platform, and the Hammerstrike stripping cover also means our heavy intercessors will do even more damage now, because the Hammerstrikes can strip cover for either the other speeders or the heavy intercessors, and the heavy intercessors with their 30-inch range on the rifles and stuff, and the 36 on the heavy bolters, they will be able to provide some cross the field shooting if our opponent really wants to let it get to that, while our 2 melee units can easily take down the opponent. So we also have a way to up down, so let's check the notes again. We want to hit the enemy home objective, and because of the Fulguris task force, we can attack the enemy home objective with the anti-graph surge, which allows us to put 1 speeder back into reserves, which means we can hit our opponent and do some stuff there. And that is a pretty good idea, I would say. Next, I want to add a classic model, which is the Lieutenant with combi weapon. Where he is right down there. The Lieutenant with combi weapon. You pick an objective before the game begins, and against that objective, the entire army can reroll 1s to wound. This will obviously combo with our notes here. against priority and purge in some way. Don't let them finish in the center and don't let them hit the center. So this means we can, against priority targets, we will just combi lieutenant mark the center objective, and whatever our opponent attempts to send into the center will die every single time without fail, because now we have also the reroll ones to wound against it. Pretty awesome. So this obviously makes a lot of sense to me. Next, I would also focus in on this point where hit the enemy home objective is a thing I noticed here. We want to do that against recon and against priority targets. So here we go with this, and that will be a little special trick of mine. We will be taking a captain with a jump pack and give him an enhancement, and that enhancement will be the Liberatum. This makes our captain 100 points, which means he's just by himself. I'm not gonna put him in any units, but he will be in a unit. He will not be in a unit. He will be in deep strike, and we will deep strike this guy in, and then we will attack the enemy home objective. Why? Because this guy is pretty flexible. So first of all, if our opponent doesn't want to go on the middle objectives because they're afraid of being charged and stuff, and we are going second, we can rapid ingress our captain into that objective and get a primary scoring for free, which is awesome. We can also just deep strike and pop the stratagem that gives us +2 to charge. On here, on this detachment, Furious Dedication, which gives us a +2 to charge and +1 attack. So we can just deep strike and go for a 7-inch charge, and half the time it should work, but ideally we just rapid ingress for free, maybe sticky an objective, just to do it, and then we just charge something. And the Liberatum is an enhancement which gives our captain reroll hits and wounds against a target on an objective. And the way we will make use of this is we will give our captain a thunder hammer. Oh wait, excuse me, that was a chaplain. We want a captain with jump pack. Where is he? Here he is, captain with jump pack, and we will give him a thunder hammer and storm shield and the Liberatum. What does this actually do? So, our captain will have 6 wounds, and he will have a melee weapon with death wounds. Now, we will only hit on freeze, but we ideally have reroll hits and wounds because we are attacking the objective unit, and we will have full reroll to hit and wound, which means if we want to fish for some devastating wounds, some mortals, that is absolutely possible. You should get between like 4 and 6 mortal wounds every time you attack something. I mapped it out in the calculator. If you pop +1 attack, you will kill 5 intercessors around half the time. Now, if you give yourself +1 OC and maybe you don't attack intercessors, you attack something like scouts or incursors, you will probably kill enough of them to take the objective away. And this is also where this comes in, because the captain, if he ever happened to be on an objective your opponent can reach to deny it, will have -1 to wound. So if you rapid ingress him out in the open in front of like not the most threatening shooting, it is still a -1 to wound captain with 6 wounds and a 4-up invuln. So it's not that easy to kill this guy. I have played this model a lot, and I have been very impressed. I really like this guy. So now that we have everything we kind of ask for, if we go through all of these points, we have things that can hit the center, we have things that discourage our opponents from hitting the center, we have a lot of OC, so now we just need to make sure we actually get those OC onto the objectives, which means we should add some units to skirmish, to screen, and do all of that stuff. And there's one thing that we didn't touch yet against recon. We don't really want our opponent to flank us all of that much, so we could consider taking some infiltrators if possible. They are very expensive, but the 12-inch no deep strike is really good. This would leave us with 130 points for some extra stuff, so we could take a unit of Reavers, for example. Reavers -1 OC, which makes it very easy to manipulate our opponent's OC in all of our center objectives. It's basically the same thing as having an OC2 unit, kind of, because Reavers debuff the enemy OC, they cause some battle shock stuff, and that's kind of fun. The infiltrators will not actually score anything, they're just kind of there. and that would be something. And now we are at 55 points short. So there are a few things we could consider. We couldn't consider upgrading our Hammerstrikes with the enhancements from the Fulguris task force. We could buy, because it's an, I believe we can do this because it's a upgrade, right? It's an upgrade, so you can take three of these, and they could stack in multiples. So we could consider the Raptorial Cogitator core to give our speeders ignore cover. This would cost us 60 points, so we are short, but we could also just give one of the speeders ignore cover and not the other. So how's the unit count going? We are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 units. So 11 units, not the most, also not the least. So it's kind of like, it's pretty low, but for Space Marines it's not unheard of. I would prefer to have the 12th unit in this list, to be honest. So one thing we could consider is we could just take the Blade Guard squad down to 3, and then we would have 80 points for another thing. So we would have 135. So we could probably take like a Reaver squad and an ATV. That would be a thing we could do. That would even be 2 extra units. What I would actually prefer to do is we could take our Victrix guard and just drop the company champion. The company champion is cool, don't get me wrong, but maybe we just save those 10 points and then we get a scout squad on the buck. That would be something we can do. We probably don't want to cut the banner because the banner is pretty important, gives us +1 attack and strength, and that's kind of that. Alternatively, we could just not run the infiltrators and do something else, but I do think this is kind of what I like to do. So we will take the scout squad. I would like to have a Reaver squad, if I have to be completely honest, just the second one, or maybe some JPI, so we could have a way to give our captain a unit in the Purge the Foe matchup, which would allow us to have a fewer units our opponent gets kill points from, because if we have 5 jump pack intercessors or Vanguard veterans, we could just join them to the captain, and then we have 1 unit less they can kill, which is something we could consider. It also would give us more OC if we want to do that, but it would conflict with the infiltrator plan, which is basically on the recon matchup. We would have something that our opponent, hey, don't be in our deployment zone for your extra scoring, and that would be something that we could do. On the other hand, our home objective isn't that important. So maybe we can get away without the infiltrators. I honestly expected there to be more. Your opponent can take your home objective for extra points, but it's actually not in take and hold. The center is way more important. So how about we drop the infiltrators and we just add a unit of jump pack intercessors in. So let's take assault intercessors with jump packs. I will not be adding Vanguard veterans because right now Vanguard veterans still use the old datasheet, which means the Vanguard veterans will have the strength 5 AP 1 weapons. They don't have the damage 2 stuff, all of that kind of thing. So this would leave us with 85. So we could, so now we have 90 points to play with. If we buy back the chapter champion, we would have a second unit of JPI we could take. We could also take like regular intercessors or something. 90 points, we would honestly, the world's our oyster. We have a bunch of options we could consider. The reason why I don't think intercessors are that important is because we don't need to hold our home objective the entire game, and we also we can just sticky objectives with a stratagem, so we don't have to actually spend command points on it. So how about we just pick something and be done with it? We could still take the scout squad, to be honest, but maybe we just take the JPI, and then we have 2 units of JPI. In our command phase, we give them +1 OC, and then we jump in and screw them up. We can also redeploy one of those units into reserves with the wardens, and then use them for some home objective pushes, as we laid out on the other thing. Yeah, that is something we could do, and we can also just give them +1 OC, charge the opponent, and have some OC on the enemy point. Another thing we could do is we could add a second Reaver squad and get the chapter champion back. maybe that is another option we could go. We could take some incursors maybe to have a way to do this, or we take a scout squad, and then if we take a scout squad just to have some variety in what we can bring, we have 15 points, and those 15 points would give us ignore cover on one of the hammer strikes. Yeah. And this would be something that would be fine tuning, but in general, the list is done. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 units in the list, and that means we have a elite unit count. We have 3 pretty huge bricks with a lot of OC. We have some OC manipulation in the form of the Reaver squad, and we have a pretty decent shooting package, and we can even do something like, if we put one of those speeders into reserve and we deploy the other 3, we can redeploy 3 speeders back into reserve, and then on turn 1 just deep strike them in and go for like a kill shot on something. If there's like a Castellan Knight or something, we can just kill that thing turn 1 if it wants to expose itself into the center, and that would be a massive swing in the game, in my opinion, because yeah, we would oath it, and then we will shoot it with the heavy intercessors. We will strip cover from it so we can hit it more easily. Sounds like a good time to me. But yeah, the way I would do the second scoring unit, I mean, you could also consider Outriders, maybe Outriders, because they have a 12-inch move, so they are fast, just like the JPI. You can't go through walls, but they have OC2, so they are strictly better at taking an objective away than the JPI, because they have OC1 and 5, so it's one more OC. It's something you could consider. It's just, this is the kind of stuff on the list. This requires you to test the games and how it would go. So this is the way the list would look. I will try it out. Obviously, I will do some test games, and then I will go back on it and tweak it. But something like this, I want to play at the upcoming little tournament I want to attend. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about the list? Do you like this scout squad? Would you prefer some JPI? Would you prefer something completely different? Maybe you want to run an Eradicator squad or something, or maybe some Infernus Marines with some Overwatch in the center. I don't know. You tell me what you like. With that said, courage and honor, we march for McCrag.